Hello. Today we are going to add and subtract mixed numbers with models. So for all of our equations that we're solving, we're going to be using pictures to help us see the answers and be able to visualize it. Let's start with number 1. 3 and 5 6 plus 1 and 2 6. So I've already colored in my 3 and 5 6. All of my circles are cut into 6. I've shaded in 3 whole circles, and then I've shaded in 5 6 of my next circle. To add 1 and 2 6, I'm going to start with my 1 hole, and I'm going to complete 1 new hole. And then I'm going to add my 2 6. Notice that I already have this 6 that I can add to. So I'm going to start there because it's going to make my model easier to read. So if I add 2 6, this is my 1 6, but then I have to use my other 6 in another circle. So this is going to be my other 1 6. So to show 1 and 2 6, I added 1 hole in this one, 1 6 in this one, and 1 6 in this one. Now I have to count up all the models that I colored. So I have 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes, 5, and 1 6. So my answer to this addition sentence is 5 and 1 6. Let's try another one. I'm going to add 1 and 2/3 plus 2 and 1/3. I started off with 1 hole and 2/3, and now I'm going to add 2 and 1/3. I'm going to change the color of my highlight for this fraction. So the first thing I'm going to start with is my whole number. I'm going to color in 2 whole models. 1, 2. And I have to add 1/3. But I can see I have an empty 1/3 in one of my first models, so I'm going to color in this third as my 1/3. Now looking at what I added 1 hole, 1 hole, and 1/3, which is going to give me my 2 and 1/3. Now I can add up all these circles together. So 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes, 4 holes. So I know that 1 and 2/3 plus 2 and 1/3 equals 4. Why don't you write this down in your notebook, but you can write it horizontally. So 1 and 2/3 plus 2 and 1/3 equals 4. Now we're going to look at a model with subtraction, and then we'll try both of these on our own. I'm starting off with the mixed number 2 and 4 6. So I have 2 whole models filled in, and then 4 6 of my last model filled in. From that, I need to take away 1 hole and 2 6. Instead of erasing it, which I can easily do on the board, I'm going to draw X's on the parts I want to get rid of, because that's what you're going to be doing in your work. So if I need to get rid of 1 and 2 6, first I'm going to start by crossing off an entire 1 hole. Get rid of that circle completely. Then I need to get rid of my 2 6, which I'm going to use my last model for because it's not complete, so it's going to be easier to take away the 2 6. So I'm going to cross off that portion, and I'm going to cross off that portion. Just like we did back in 9-4 with subtracting with models. We used X's to show that we were subtracting. So now I have to count what I have. I have one whole circle. I have nothing here because I've crossed it off. And I have 2 6 in this model, which tells me that my answer to this is 1 whole and 2 6. Now let's take a look at this one, because my first number does not have a fraction. It's just 4 minus 2 and 1/3. But I'm going to use the same strategy. Why don't you draw this one in your notebook? First, write the equation, 4 minus 2 and 1/3, and then draw the pictures in your notebook. You can, if it's easier for you, you can draw a rectangle as your diagram, because sometimes that's easier to cut into thirds. Pause the video while you draw 4 pieces cut into thirds each. Okay, now we're going to cross off our bottom number, 2 and 1/3. So I'm going to start with the whole number, and I'm going to cross off 2 whole models in my picture. I'm left now with 2, because I know 4 minus 2 is 2. Then I'm going to cross off my fraction, my 1/3. I'm going to cross off one piece of one of the models. And I look at my model to see what's left. I have 1 whole left. And in this model, I have 2/3 left. So 4 minus 2 and 1/3 is 1 and 2/3. Let's try another one. Why don't you also pause the video and draw this in your notebook? And before I walk through the steps, see if you can cross off what you think we'll need to cross off, and see if you can get an answer for this question. Okay, so notice that I started off with 4 complete models, and then 1/4 of my last model. And I need to take away 2 and 2/4. So I'm going to cross off 2 complete models. I know 4 minus 2 is 2, so that's leaving me with 2 wholes. But then I need to get rid of 2/4. Well, I can take 1/4 from this picture, but that's the only 4th that's in this circle. So now I need to go to one of my complete circles that I have, and I need to cross off another 4th. So I've just taken away another 1 whole. So asking myself what I'm left with, I have 1 whole and 3/4 of this 1 whole. So 4 and 1/4 minus 2 and 2/4 is 1 and 3/4. That one was a really tricky one. Okay, you can try this one in your notebook, especially if you did well with the last one. If not, and you want to follow along with me, that's fine too. So I'm doing 3 and 1/3 minus 1 and 2/3. I have 3 complete models colored in and 1/3 of my next model. I need to subtract 1 whole model and 2/3. So I'm going to start with my 1 whole, just like I've been doing, and get rid of 1 whole model. Now I need to get rid of 2/3, and in this one I only have 1/3. So I'm going to get rid of that 1/3, which does completely get rid of that model. And then I'm going to take a 1/3 from this model. So looking at what I have left, I have 1 whole, and in this one I have 2/3. So my answer to this problem is 1 and 2/3. Sorry about that. So my answer is 1 and 2/3. Okay, let's look at a few more. 4 and 2/6 minus 1 and 4/6. I'm going to cross off 1 whole in my model, and I'm going to cross off 4/6. So I notice I can take 2/6 from that model, but I know I have to take another 2/6 from this model. So here's my 1 whole that I just crossed off. Here's 1 6, 2 6, 3 6, 4 6. So what am I left with? 1 whole, and 4 6 of my last one. So 4 and 2 6 minus 1 and 4 6 equals 2 and 4 6. Okay, for this one, I'm going to have you pause the video. I want you to draw the model from the beginning, color in the 3 1/3, and then shade in and 1 1/3. And let's see what we get as our answer. Okay, so here is my 3 1/3. And now I need to add 1 1/3. So I'm going to color it in my blue pen to show it's different. I'm going to color in my 1 whole. And then I'm going to color in my fraction into the model that is already started. It's going to make it look, I'm going to be able to read it easier if that's the model I use. I count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4 complete models and 2/3 of that model. So 3 1/3 plus 1 1/3 equals 4 2/3. Let's try our last one, which is going to be a subtraction one. Very similar, now I'm subtracting. So start again in your notebook, draw your model of 3 1/3, then cross off your pieces of 1 whole and 2/3, and let's see what you get. So here's what I start off with, 3 1/3. I'm going to cross off 1 whole and 2/3. Cross this off, and as my answer, I get 1 2/3. Because I have 1 whole and 2/3. Okay, great job.